Hello, it's Pastor John. Thank you for joining me today. I have a question for you. Who do you think you are? Simple question. Who do you think you are? Years ago, there was a woman who was on the beach in Carlsbad, California, and she was suffering from amnesia. Some trauma had happened, and emergency services came out to help her. All they could tell, because she had no ID, no nothing, all they could tell was that she was Australian. She had a strong Australian accent. And it took not only bringing her back to health, but it took the international press working with the services as well here in the United States to figure out who she was and restore her back to her family. She had a serious case of amnesia, probably a bump or trauma to her head, something that caused that. Well, there's a story in the Bible about a king who also had amnesia of sorts. You see, King Nebuchadnezzar was receptive and he was open to discovering who the king of the universe was. He resisted at first, of course. He was told that he was the king of this head of Babylon, this great head of gold, in this dream that he had originally. We find that dream in chapter 2. And then we find out later on, chapter 3, he builds his own image made of pure gold, essentially defying God, because in the dream that he had the first time, he was only the head of gold. But this image that he built out in the plains in Babylon was all pure gold. And he was basically saying by that, my kingdom will last forever. Well, then he has another dream. This is the second dream. And we read about this one in chapter 3. And he calls all of the wise men together, some of them, magicians and soothsayers and others, including Daniel. And like the first time, only Daniel could interpret his dream. And after hearing the interpretation of the dream, we can see that he still is not fully ready to give up his own will. And so he blurts out these words as he's walking on the palace. I'm going to read this from Daniel 4, verse 28. At the end of the 12 months, he was walking about the royal palace of Babylon. The king spoke, saying, "Is not this great Babylon that I have built for a royal dwelling by my mighty power and for the honor of my majesty?" And it says in verse 31, while the word was still in the king's mouth, a voice fell from heaven, "King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom has departed from you." And he became a madman, roaming as a wild beast for 7 years, until he looked back up into the heavens at the end of that 7 years, remembered who he was, came to his senses, and glorified the King of the universe as the true king. Now, God only did this because he knew King Nebuchadnezzar was receptive to learning and to understanding and to growing in the true knowledge of the King of the universe. It's an amazing story, really, because there weren't many other kings from nations outside of Israel that had this kind of an experience and accepted Israel's God and came to serve and to worship him. So I'll ask you the question again. Who do you think you are? It's really a question we always need to answer every day. Who do I think I am? Am I in charge of my own life? Am I doing my own thing? Have I created and built my own wealth? Have I sustained my own health? We need to always remember that it is God who blesses us. It is God who has given us what we have. And whether we follow him or not, he knows our heart. And I preached just here this last Sabbath about God's discipline or his chastisement. He knows if we can be reached, and he is always trying, and he'll go to certain depths, I'm sure as well, as far as he possibly can, to those that are receptive, to get us to turn our hearts back to him and to acknowledge that He's the God of the universe, and He's in charge of all things, and He's given us all things. How then even more we who follow the Lord need to remember every day that we are blessed by Him. He gives us all things, and all the things that happen to us that we get so uptight about and we're so invested in, and this life we're trying to make for ourselves here on this earth. In reality, it doesn't matter. We need to do our best, absolutely. But it's God who provides. He's the one that blesses us. And let's remember that till our dying day. That is what I want to encourage you with today. God bless you as you think about the Lord's blessings and you remember that He is in charge of your life.